Welcome to the Impact Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Beck, the founder of The Sales Activist, and I am thrilled to be with you here today. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and that topic is how you can crush your sales goals. That's right, crush your sales goals, even without doing that much selling. So before we get into that, let's talk about a little bit about where we are this time of year. So right around the time that this episode drops, we're going to be about halfway through the month of January. And I have one question for you. How is your year starting out? Are you off to a fast start? Are you struggling? Things happening quickly for you? Or are you having a difficult time getting out of the gate this year? Well, no matter where you stand, I promise you, if you stay close to the Impact Sales Podcast, we're going to be sharing a lot of great actionable content that you can use for your benefit, tips, tactics, things that will help you improve your sales results. So if you haven't already, subscribe to our channels, make sure that you download episodes and pay close attention to what we're doing with our show. You definitely don't want to miss it. So I'm looking forward to covering this topic today. But before we jump in, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Hi, this is Joe Beck with The Sales Activist. Are you a coach, consultant, or entrepreneur selling high-ticket products or services and struggling to meet your sales objectives? Does your calendar look like a barren wasteland with little to no activity and even less in your sales pipeline? Well, if this sounds like you, I'd like to help. For well over 34 years and after tens of thousands of live sales interactions and hundreds of millions of dollars of closed sales transactions, I've developed a proprietary sales system, the ISM system. And the ISM system can show you how to triple your sales results in 6 months or less, all without spending a single extra dollar on advertising. To get the details, just text the word sales to the number 409-509-7355. And you can jump on a complimentary consultation where we'll talk all about sales and exactly what ISM can do for you and your business. This is Joe Beck with The Sales Activist. You don't have to settle for average sales results. We'll talk to you soon. All right, and we're back with the Impact Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Beck, and we've got a great one in store for you today. I mentioned it just a minute ago, how you can crush your sales goals even without doing a lot of selling. I get asked by a lot of people about professional selling, meeting, reaching, and exceeding your sales goals, and how do you go about doing that? And obviously, that's a long-winded answer, the type of thing that you're not just going to cover in one podcast episode or one small snippet of information. But we're going to do our best today over the next few minutes to kind of give you some really high-level bulleted direction on how you can completely crush your sales goals, even if you don't do a lot of selling, even if you don't feel you're great at selling, even if you don't feel that you're a salesperson, right? We're going to talk all about meeting and exceeding your sales goals and crushing them for your benefit. So let's first start with the basics. Let's just dig into something that I think people really need to understand. I know people have heard this. I've shared it. I know many people share this. There are really two facets to selling that you really need to understand, right? The first is the art of selling. There's communication, there's personality, there's positioning. There's this art to what you do as a salesperson. No matter who you are, no matter what you sell, there's an art component. And that's something that you continually need to work on and refine and improve as you go along. That's the art side. But the other side of the equation, the side that a lot of people either discount or don't pay enough attention to, is what we call the science of selling. Now, the science of selling are the numbers, the metrics, all the things that you need to do to create opportunity for yourself when you're selling. And see, to really be successful, to be elite, to truly be elite, you need to master both. But for you to get a fast start, for you to really crush your sales goals, you absolutely, positively need to master and control the science of selling. You need to understand everything about your numbers. You need to understand everything about all of your metrics, your conversion ratios, what percentage of people that you do close or not close. You need to understand those things inside and out if you really want to crush your sales goals. See, the more you master the science of selling, the more prospects you have, the more leads you have, the more opportunities you have, the easier it becomes to sell. Now, it doesn't mean that these people are just all automatically going to be clients. Of course not. But you give yourself more opportunity. You give yourself more of a chance. You give yourself truly a greater opportunity to build momentum when you have many more opportunities to win new business. And to do that, you really need to focus on a couple of things. So today we're going to break what those things down are really and focus on what you need to be managing so you can start to build mastery of the science side of your selling. So let's break those things down. Now, how you do that, number one, is by breaking things into smaller, manageable elements. You don't just think of the whole picture of the science side of selling. You need to break it down into individual elements, individual activity elements, things like emails, phone calls, messages, ads, discovery calls, proposals, all the different moving parts that go into selling, closing opportunities, right? You have to figure out what all those pieces are. And they may look a little different depending upon who you are and what you do and what your specialty is or what your business is. But you really need to break it down and look at every single individual component. If you want to crush your sales results, you need to look at all those individual components and figure out what the things are that you need to be doing. And you need to make sure to really crush your goals that you break them down into manageable elements so they're easier to understand, easier to track, easier to stay on top of, and most importantly, easier to analyze the trend that you're currently experiencing. So, the bottom line is if you have a really big goal or sales objective for yourself, it's so much easier for you if you chop that goal up into smaller pieces, daily or weekly pieces. So you know exactly what it is that you need to do. If you know, based upon your experience, that you need to have 10 meetings to generate 3 legitimate prospects to generate 1 client, which is a very typical average, okay? Whatever typical is, very typical average, 10 opportunities, 3 legitimate prospects, 1 of them becoming a client. Well, then you can start to build an activity plan that's going to get you where you need to go. And for you to be able to crush your goals, man, you better understand your numbers. You better understand your metrics. You better understand all the things that you need to do. So before we start talking about how you do it, which we're going to get into in a minute, I thought it was important to start with, you need to master the science. Now, over time, the art of selling, your communication skills, your communication pattern, how you position things, how you close will improve over time with repetition. It'll improve over time with practice and investing in yourself and learning more about how to get better at what you do. The more you do something, like with anything, the more it becomes a habit, the more comfortable it becomes for you. And ultimately, the more successful that you can become in it. The less you do it, the harder it is for you to create that habit. And that's why mastering the science, the activity is really an important step, because you could be the best communicator in the world or the best salesperson in the world. If you don't master the number side of the business, the science, and you don't get enough opportunities to close, you're not going to win a lot of new business. So mastering the science is absolutely required if you want to crush your sales objectives. No matter what your sales background is, if you have so many opportunities, so many leads, so many prospects, so many appointments, you can't help but win business. You can't help but close business if you just know how to communicate at a very basic level. Now, where it becomes harder is when you start dealing in much more advanced sales situations, bigger ticket selling, larger transactions, more complicated sales and sales processes. That's when it becomes a lot more important that your art side of the business is worked on. But if you're going to start anywhere, I would say master the science. Get your activities down. Learn as you go if you're not quite there yet. The fact is, no matter who you are, no matter what your sales background is, I promise you, There isn't a single sales professional out there that knows everything about professional selling. Okay. You're always going to be learning something new. You're always going to be developing and honing and perfecting your craft if you're going to be selling. So take the pressure off yourself. Take those bricks off your shoulders. Don't feel like you have to carry this burden because you struggle with selling. Everybody is a student of selling, no matter what their background is, no matter how much production they've generated. I've generated a lot of business in my day, and I'm still, to this day, a student of selling. I continue to study it. And I encourage anybody that's serious about it to continue to work on perfecting their craft. But to crush your goals, you have to have opportunity. You have to create opportunity. So let's get into some other elements that I think are really, really important if you want to crush your goals. And it's what I call the 3 elements of success. And you can refer to these elements. I've shared them before. I think it's really, really important. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about selling, whether you're talking about business in general, whether you're talking about life in general. These 3 elements of success play a role in everybody's lives. And we're going to talk about what those 3 things are right now. The first is you have to have the right mindset. Your head needs to be on straight. You need to be thinking the right way about whatever it is that you're doing. In selling, you need to have the right sales success mindset. You need to understand that rejection is part of the process. You need to understand that you're going to face some obstacles, but you're going to be committed to your success, and your sales success mindset is one of service and the intention of helping as many people, realizing that the more people that you help, the closer you get to your objective. Sales is not difficult. It's made up of a lot of little things that you need to do well to really master it, but it's not a difficult process. Reach out to people, connect with people, provide solutions, solve problems, and you'll ultimately get to where you want to go. But your mindset needs to be one of that, of service. You need to be thinking about how you're going to be able to help people. You can't be thinking about, oh, I've got to close this deal. I've got to generate more revenue. I've got to make more money. Those are all realities. But I promise you, if you focus on service, if you focus on solving problems and helping people reach what they're looking for, all those other things will happen as you go through that process. So your right sales mindset is focused around service. It's also focused on this element, which I think is a common denominator for most people that are out there. Especially if you're selling successfully, you have a deep-seated commitment, almost a deep-seated drive that's made up of what I call your RTF, your refusal to fail. You just are not going to accept failure. You're going to dig in. You're going to do whatever is necessary. If it means more calls, if it means more emails, if it means more strategic relationships, whatever, you're going to figure it out. You're going to make it work. It's RTF, refusal to fail. It's one of the common denominators that I think all sales successful people have, even if they haven't tapped into it completely, even if they haven't identified it or even explored it. You're going to find, if you dig a little deeper, you're going to find out they all have this refusal to fail. They do what's necessary to go out there and be successful. Why are certain people elite? Why do certain people perform at a much higher level and generate more sales and more revenue and more success? It's usually what that RTF is, that refusal to fail. There's something inside, a drive, something based upon their why they do it that keeps them moving forward. And it's that refusal to fail. And that's the first thing you need to have. The second, and this is one of these elements of success points that you just can't ever forget, you need to develop people. You need to create alignment with other people. Okay. No matter who you are, no matter what you do or offer, you are not alone in the world. You need other people to interact with. You need other people to do business with, to rely on perhaps for parts of your business. You need to develop strong relationships with people. And that includes how you work with them, how you come alongside them, how you support them, how you leverage their relationships and vice versa. Mastering working with people is one of the critical elements of your success. It's a a piece that is absolutely going to make all the difference in the world for you. When you get really good at working with other people, leveraging relationships, you start to do things that other people struggle to do. You generate more referrals, or what I like to call warm and friendly introductions. You start to feel a momentum of growth. You feel better about what you do when you know you're impacting a lot of people. You feel great about it, right? It fires you up when you're helping people. That is a major element of success. So you have your mindset as that first element. Your second element is people, nurturing and developing people around you. And the third element is success, and this is what helps you crush your sales goals without question. You better have the right systems in place. You better have what I call very specific systems in place to be able to help you be successful. Now, we're going to unpack that for the remainder of our time today. We're going to be digging into the system side, because the system side are the things that are really required if you really want to crush your sales goals. So let's talk about what the two most important systems are that you need to have, okay? And it doesn't matter whether this is a formal system. It doesn't matter whether this is kind of informal, that you kind of drag it along manually. Whatever you do and how you do it technically is a system. Now, is it the best system? I don't know. That's a question you would have to ask yourself. We're going to talk today, for the remainder of our time, about two critical systems that you need to have to crush your sales goals. The first, at the top of the list, after your mindset and the importance of mindset and dealing with people, the first at the top of the systems list is you need to have a duplicatable and scalable client acquisition system. Okay. You need a way to acquire clients, leads, prospects. You need something that's out there working on your behalf to be able to acquire opportunities, to feed the system, to kind of feed the monster, right? If you want to master the science of selling, you need to feed that monster. You need a scalable and duplicatable client acquisition system. Now, your client acquisition system may be you picking up the phone and reaching out to people. It may only be scalable if you have other people doing it for you, so you can spend time doing other things. Your client acquisition system may be working with a marketing agency that generates leads. Maybe it's you generating themselves, or you're generating them for yourself using, social media tools, using LinkedIn, using Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is you're doing to generate leads. But you're doing something by way of that system to attract and acquire leads, prospects, opportunities, okay? You need a client acquisition system. It should be duplicatable and scalable. Now, why duplicatable and scalable? Well, it's really simple. You need it to be duplicatable, so it's something that you can just repeat, rinse, repeat, and do it again over and over and over again. If it's working and it's generating the results that you want or need, and it's resulting in you generating new business, you want it to be duplicatable. It needs to be something that you can do over and over again. It can't be a single one-time thing, or else you're going to be starting over each time. It's something that you need to be able to duplicate. You want it to be scalable, something that you can do at an increased level, or do more of, or kind of throw gasoline on the fire and get more and more out of it. Because as your needs increase, as your objectives increase, as your goals and your sales results increase, if you want to continue to advance and develop those numbers and improve them, well, your client acquisition system needs to be a little evergreen, where it can grow with your needs. If your needs have expanded, if your objectives have increased, well, then you need whatever your client acquisition system is to be able to do the same, to match you, to give you enough leads, enough opportunity, to feed that monster with enough opportunity, right? Now, it doesn't mean that whatever your client acquisition system is has to do it all. It may be one component piece. You may have multiple client acquisition systems, and maybe one element of your system generates 70% of what you need, and the other one generates 20, and a third generates 10, and it gets you to 100% of what you need. Whatever your system is, though, you do want it to be duplicatable and scalable. And I encourage you to recognize one of the challenges in that rests solely on your shoulders, rests solely on your back. If you're going to put all of that on you to generate, if you're trying to do that all yourself, you have to realize that there's a trade-off of time. And your time may not be able to be spent in the other aspect or the other system that is critical to your success. If you really want to crush your sales results, well, then you better have, this is the second system that you need to have, you better have a bulletproof, easy to follow sales process. Your sales process should be what I call bulletproof, easy to follow, really, really simple to follow over and over again. Now, why is that so important? Well, as it relates to your client acquisition system, if your sales process is a jumble and it's not organized and it's not bulletproof as far as the process and the way it goes, you're going to find that you're going to waste a lot of time spinning your wheels. If it's not easy to follow, you're going to find yourself jumping around and not being as productive as you could be in a sales environment. Look, if you're going to crush your sales goals, man, that sales process needs to be tight. It needs to be tight and bulletproof for your success. But along the way, certain things will change that. And the reason why it's important having an easy to follow sales process is sometimes you get thrown for a loop or for a curve. It's really, really important to make sure that your sales process is critical. The reason why mastery of both of those systems is super critical to your success is your sales process does not matter if you don't have leads to run through it. And your client acquisition system won't be around long if you don't convert some of those clients to new business and new revenue. So there's this symbiotic relationship between the two: client acquisition system, sales process. If one is broken, the other one will just have little to no effectiveness for you. They work hand in hand. When I'm asked to look at what somebody is doing as far as their sales effort, or when I'm brought into a company to look at what they're doing as a team, as a small business, as a company towards generating sales success, I always look at their client acquisition systems or system, and I look at their sales process. And you're going to, probably not be surprised to realize that the majority of the time when there is something broken in their sales success, it's usually tied to one of those two areas. So if you really, really want to crush your sales results, man, you better develop a duplicatable and scalable client acquisition system, and you want to create a bulletproof, easy to follow sales process. And I've developed proprietary systems like this my entire career, and I've dialed them in for my own business. And I think it's one of those things that every coach, consultant, or entrepreneur out there has to master. They have to figure out to do it. If you're struggling to figure that out, reach out to me. I'll be happy to help you figure it out. But you have to master those things if you want to crush your sales results. Now, part of the reason why these things are so critical, and it goes back to the title of this episode, if your sales skills, if your art side of the business isn't super strong, if you struggle a little bit with how you communicate and how you sell, the better those two elements of your system are, the stronger they are, the less reliant upon your salesmanship you will become. And the reason that I tell people this constantly is because some people carry this burden of thinking that they have to be this super salesperson. They have to be able to communicate in a way that other people can't communicate. They think that there's some magic pill, and it doesn't exist. There are certain things that you can do. There are certain communication patterns. There are certain questioning patterns. We teach a lot of that with our company, The Sales Activist, but a large piece of sales success comes with mastering that science, and even more importantly, drilling down to that client acquisition system and that bulletproof, easy to follow sales process. When you reach out to our company for help, when we talk with people about sales, we always spend time talking about those things. How are you acquiring your clients. What's your client acquisition system look like? Tell me about your sales process. What do your calls look like? How do you organize them? Like, all of these things play a role, even more than what you say and how you say it. And I know for those of you out there that struggle with salesmanship or communication in general, if you're those natural introverts, I'm going to tell you that you can be who you are and still be wildly successful in sales. You don't have to become this super outspoken, outgoing, great communicator. I've known a lot of people that are introverts that are master sales professionals. And the reason is they've mastered the other elements of their success. They've mastered the science. They have a scalable and duplicatable client acquisition system. They have an easy to follow sales process, and things flow much more naturally as a result of it. So when you're looking at trying to crush your sales goals and you want to do it without really being strong in selling, you need to double down and master the science of sales. And that goes all the way back to what I said at the beginning. You know, you're going to need to break things down into smaller metrics. You're going to need to manage them in smaller pieces. If you want to, create a massive sales result, break it down into small elements that are easy to manage, easy to track, and even more importantly, easy to attain, to build some momentum, to build some excitement, to get excited about the progress and the tracking that you're currently doing. Start with smaller numbers. Don't stare at that huge number all the time, because you're going to find that it becomes overwhelming, sometimes adding to your stress and burden. But if you want to crush those sales goals and do it consistently, follow what I've talked about in today's episode. Break down specifically all the things that you're doing in the mastery of the science of selling, and you will find yourself well on the way to being successful. I want to thank you all for taking the time to be with us today on this podcast. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Impact Sales Podcast, download our episodes. There's a lot of amazing content, both coming individually from me as well as the guests that we have on the show. You don't want to miss them. This is Joe Beck with the Sales Activist, and we'd like to wrap up every episode by saying, sell better and impact the world. We'll see you soon. Hi, this is Joe Beck with the Sales Activist. Are you struggling to meet and exceed the sales objectives you have for yourself and your business? Well, if you are, I'd like to help. For well over 34 years, and after tens of thousands of live sales interactions and hundreds of millions of dollars of closed sales transactions, I've developed a proprietary sales system, the ISM sales system. And this system can show you how to triple your sales results in 6 months or less, guaranteed, all without spending a single extra dollar on advertising. To get the details, just text the word sales to the number 409-509-7355. That's sales to 409-509-7355. And you can schedule a complimentary consultation where we'll talk all about ISM and exactly what it can do to help you and your business. This is Joe Beck with the Sales Activist. You don't have to settle for average sales results. I'll talk to you soon.